Greetings, I am Brother Judah, Moreh Yehuda, member of the Congregation of Israel, a representative of the NMP, the Nazarene Messianic Party. And I'd like to thank all of the people who have taken the time out to join us on our podcast, What is to be Done? Here we investigate geopolitical, historical, biblical, social, and other scientific content. We approach the Bible from a social political perspective, and we argue that is the appropriate way to approach the Bible because the Bible and its content deals with kingdoms and nations and society and civilizations and governments. In short, political science and politics. Today, we want to demonstrate that as we analyze some political matters. And today's topic I would like to discuss, it's the Democrats and Republican seesaw of plundering foundation Americans. And this isn't any discrimination against our brothers and sisters from the so-called second and third world countries who migrate or immigrate. We have to be scientific in our analysis of things and begin to compartmentalize different subjects so we can get clarity before we bring them together. So we're not here to bash immigrants. We have other discussions and also talking about their situations at home and also abroad. Today I want to talk about foundation Americans that consist of the diversity of races in this country, whether they're considered white, black, Asian, Latino. What we find, and as we discussed before about the war in heaven, the political struggle for economic justice, and we argue that the vehicle for renovating the globe and bringing economic justice into the earth is the church. So far, we had talked about in our other podcasts, and hopefully we can get more in depth, is that this word church comes from this word ecclesia in Greek, and it is a political term, and it was used, ecclesia was used to describe the political body of males over 20 discussing political affairs in society. The apostle Saul or Paul or Shaul used this word, fully aware of what it meant because he understood from the law and the prophets that the mission from Abraham and his children and the Abrahamic kingdom, aka the church, is a political body. And this political body has a mission. And that mission is to usher in justice and equity into the world, into this earth, to renovate the earth of all oppression and injustice. And so we argue this position, and we take a stance to defend this position with anybody, religious, so-called persons or so-called secular persons. And so us discussing this, we want to sort of give a demonstration and an example as we look at this exchange between the Democrats and the Republicans. And we want to investigate some of the topics in which they're discussing. And might I add, we're going to venture into the world where the real war and words matters. We're going into a world that shapes how the citizens live on a day-to-day basis. As Mother Shirley Chisholm argued, being on a corner and just yelling, that's all you are. But if you want to make a change in the world, you have to enter into the real field of battle. And your voice must be heard. And this is prophetic because it is the teaching of the prophets that the nations shall go to the assembly of the Holy One, and they shall learn of the ways of the creator of this universe, the creator of all things that are, and the power and the source and the cause of all things that are and that are not. And this political body is to be the catalyst to change this world and to teach government, governing by way of justice and equity and truth. So your voice is heard in this paradigm, in this political world. And there's forces at play to keep the masses of the people out of it. But you cannot have a democracy, which was a revolutionary idea, breaking free from monarchies for the past several millennia, and entering into a paradigm where the common person pushing a plow as young as 18 can have access to political power and have the potential to bring down governments and to establish governments. And what's even more astounding is that it can be done by the power of word, persuasion, and the formation of ideas. It is a science to be looked into, and also not just looked into, but acted upon. And God willing, we will be discussing this in more detail in more discussions we have, Most High willing. So enter into this world. And this world I am making reference to again is the political field. And this political field, or this world of politics, we want to realize that it is right here in our grasp. It's not on Mars. It's not out of our reach. It's right here. And in various places throughout the world, they have this setup, whether it's Asia, whether it's Africa or South America. And we, the people, must realize that we are not bystanders or spectators. We are the actual life that make this thing go. The people who sit in power, they want us to believe that they make it go and we're the spectators and we watch them. But as the Greek philosopher argued, those of you who do not involve themselves in politics will be ruled over by your inferiors. And so this idea that politics is apart from us, government is set up above us and high above us, and they are the only intelligent ones who can do this and do that, is great deception. And but we also have to acknowledge that you must be learned. You can't go in ignorant, because by no means are the people who sit in these seats ignorant, though. This discussion we're going to have today about the Democrats and Republicans, seesaw, going up and down, back and forth of the plundering of the foundation American people. The people who labor day in and day out. The people who's plundered and robbed and pillaged constantly with a smiling face often. We're going to investigate this, and I want you to pay attention. So what's going on? We're going to jump into this scene with the committee of the Oversight Committee pertaining to fraud. And we're going to listen to discourse briefly. And I think we're going to visit this back and forth because it's a lot of points. And I would like to revisit this and for other discussions. So they're going to talk about the fraud that has been found in Ohio. Okay. But we're going to also incorporate not just the fraud, but other avenues in which the tax dollars of the exploited workers in America, where they're going. And there is a solution to this, but we first have to realize the issues. And one issue is foundational Americans are caught in capitalism and mercantilism. You're caught there. You're born into it. Things must be changed. Now, notice what we're about to investigate.
Will come to order. Welcome, everybody. Without objection, the chair may declare recess at any time. I now recognize myself for the purposes of making an opening statement. Good morning and welcome.
So we're going to look into the vulnerabilities in Medicaid waiver programs. That's part of what we're going to investigate today. And we want to critique both sides through our discussions, all right? So it may seem lopsided where, why are you not talking about the Democrats, or why are you not talking about the Republicans? We won't get into that game. What we're going to say is just be patient as we critique what's being said. And right now, we have this oversight committee dealing with fraud and abuse. Okay, so let's check this out again.
Good morning and welcome to the first hearing for the task force on, again, defending constitutional rights and exposing institutional abuses. America's Medicaid system was designed to provide health care for low-income Americans. Unfortunately, as reporting from Luke Rosiak at the Daily Wire has recently revealed, fraudsters and cheats are stealing billions in hard-earned American tax dollars. This is something we've seen before, unfortunately. Just a couple months ago, the House Oversight Committee examined a similar problem in Minnesota where Somali fraudsters stole over $16 billion from American taxpayers. Today, we're going to be focusing on Ohio, which appears in many ways quite similar. Ohio broadened its Medicaid program through home and community-based services, or HCBS waivers, authorized under the Social Security Act. HCBS waivers allow states to provide home-based health care as opposed to providing health care in hospitals or other institutions. These waivers also allow states to cover non-medical personal care services such as cooking and cleaning, as well as companionship and conversation. The problem is that fraudsters are billing Medicaid for personal care services that were never actually provided in many cases. Here's how it works. A fraudster finds an elderly person in Ohio, oftentimes a family member, who he believes will qualify for federally funded home health services. The fraudster then gets a note from a doctor which vouches for the elderly person's supposed needs. Because the fraudster is unequipped to deal directly with the Medicaid bureaucracy, he contracts with a home health business who acts as an intermediary between himself and the federal government. The business then facilitates Medicaid payments from the taxpayer to the fraudster while taking a cut off of the top. In the personal care Medicaid waiver program in Ohio alone, taxpayers have lost an estimated $1.2 billion due to fraud. $1.2 billion of hard-earned American tax dollars are now in the hands of criminals. So who are these fraudsters? Well, just like in Minnesota, many of them are Somali. There are an estimated 60,000 Somalis living in Ohio right now. That means that Ohio is the second largest Somali population in America, second only to Minnesota. In addition to Somali fraudsters, Ohio is home to the largest population of Bhutanese immigrants in America. Recent reporting shows that many of the Somali and Bhutanese communities commit a large portion, if not the majority, of home health Medicaid fraud in Ohio. That may not be the politically correct thing to say, but we believe that is the truth. So what do we know about these businesses that are facilitating Medicaid fraud? Thanks to Rosiak's investigative reporting, we know quite a bit. They oftentimes have names like Capital Home Health, Continental Home Health, Dynamic Home Health Care, or Ohio Senior Home Health Care, or some derivation of a similar name. Many of them operate out of largely abandoned, often windowless buildings like the one at 6161 Bush Boulevard, which is home to 94 different companies that have recently billed Medicaid $66 million. There have also been multiple reports of other abandoned buildings, companies sharing the same address, and corporate names that are identical. Indeed, many of these companies appear virtually indistinguishable from one another. They don't advertise themselves, they charge the same rates, and offer no clear explanation of how they even acquired large numbers of patients, often seemingly overnight. So I think what the American people would like to better understand, and one of the purposes of this hearing, is why was this allowed to happen? Of course, part of the answer is in fact immigration. The reality is that America wouldn't have a problem with Somali and Bhutanese fraud if we didn't import large numbers of Somali and Bhutanese people. That's a fact. This appears to be the tip of the iceberg of a gross abuse of America's immigration system. For too long, our government allowed foreigners from low-trust societies with very little vetting to pour into our communities. Now, as elected officials, we can't stand idly by as these fraudsters exploit our welfare system and get rich off of American taxpayers, and we can't back down to fraud simply because of spurious accusations of racism. Secondly, as we'll discuss, we have a problem with verifying the integrity of America's welfare programs. Programs like the electronic visit verification system, including its GPS tracking system, were not properly utilized. That means that in many cases, we can't even verify if any of the billed home health services were even provided. In many cases, family members are billing Medicaid for alleged services provided to their own relatives. At the same time, we've seen billboards in Columbus advertise that people can get paid for caring for a loved one at home. The result is that fraudsters and fraudulent home health businesses are stealing massive sums of money by abusing and defrauding federal Medicaid. This isn't just about safeguarding our constituents' hard-earned tax dollars, but it's also about saving our society from fraudsters and cheats and protecting the availability of critical programs for the American people. According to Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Oz, half of all fraud in federal government programs is in health care. He recently revealed that eliminating fraud in Medicare alone would double the life expectancy of the Medicare Trust Fund without any other legislative fixes. The purpose of this hearing is to better understand the nature, scale, and scope of Medicaid fraud in Ohio, to understand why it happened, and to better understand who is responsible. I want to thank our witnesses for appearing today on this important topic, and with that, I'd like to yield to Ranking Member Simon for her opening statement.
Okay, we're going to get back to Simon, the Congresswoman Latifah Simon. We're going to get back to her. But right now, I want to recall some numbers. he had made mention here, the chairman, of $1.2 billion in fraud in Ohio. And he mentioned it was similar to what happened in Minnesota. And Minnesota, he argued today or presented numbers $16 billion in fraud. In fraud. If you look it up, I have heard numbers from 90 million to 9 billion in fraud in Minnesota. So from 90 million to, let's say, 9 billion, let's play it in the middle because I've heard both numbers, 9 billion most of the time, in fraud to these so-called services, Medicaid services, helping professions. Now, to discuss the plunder of the nations is another subject. But those who come from the other countries from around the world and wherever they're migrating to, if they're going to any country, whether they're going to Mexico or whether they're going to America or Canada or France or Britain, if they're going there with capitalistic tendencies, then no matter what color they are or what ethnicity they come from, they are opportunists and they're dangerous to the well-being of society. Now, just because one person is a capitalist, you can't point a finger and say, well, he's a capitalist too. So to justify your crimes, that doesn't work that way. Okay? And we got to straighten this out because we're going to look at Congresswoman Simon because she is of the 12th district, the 12th congressional district in California. All right? And she's going to get on here, whether purposely or just being uninformed. She's going to get on here with some rhetoric, her being a Democrat. Now, what we have is this seesaw between the Democrat and Republicans. Now, yes, the American people have been defrauded, but they haven't just been defrauded in Medicaid. They have been defrauded in their groceries, in their cost for their human rights, food, shelter, clothing. But these numbers are staggering. They're staggering. And you have people who can't even retire today. They have to keep working well into their 60s and 70s. I'm talking about foundational American peoples. Now, not only do we have $1.2 billion in fraud in Ohio, it is argued also that we have $9 billion to $16 billion of fraud in Minnesota. Now, let's add these numbers together with another situation that we have here. And we're going to go to another hearing that took place about a year ago with the mayors. Now, this isn't about fraud. This is about illegal immigrant funding, whether they're whether they're seeking refuge. We're talking about those who are not citizens. They may have green cards, but they're not American citizens. They may be seeking asylum or whatever have you. Now listen to these numbers. Because when you put it together, when you look at the cost of food, they want to blame Trump. You look at the cost of rent, They want to blame Trump. And that's the dishonesty in the whole thing. They all play the game. I mean, for the workers, it's not a game, but they all play it. It's called capitalism. But what they do is they point at each other and blame each other. And so right now they have a capitalist who's sitting in office that is causing problems for other sectors of the capitalist mode of production, namely the capitalists who have their hand in the helping industries or the helping professions, pharmaceutical and medical, capitalist medical industry, the capitalist pharmaceutical industry, the proliferation of drugs, the coddling of those who are entangled and strangled in these substance addictions. Who makes the Narcans, the needles, the medications? These are the pharmaceutical industries plundering the people, and it just so happens that as much as the Democrats talk about Trump and his capitalist tactics, they have them as well. They support billion-dollar industries. So we're looking at the medical industry, and we're looking at this fraud through Medicaid. Well, okay, who's getting paid from the tax dollars from Medicaid? The medical and pharmaceutical industries. So they're getting something off the top. So the Democrats, and many of them are in office who support that capitalist class and that branch of capitalism, the Democrats and Republicans who sit in the seats of Congress, they have the power of the purse. See, when you're looking at prices, Congress has the power of the purse. When you're looking at and want to blame Trump, have his faults, but we got to analyze this critically. Prices don't just go up because of Trump. Prices go up because corporations want the prices to go up. When they fought for $15 an hour in the days of the reign of Obama, most social scientists understood that once you give these people $15 an hour, give us, the working class people, a raise, then the commodity is going to go up because Congress allows it. It's capital. It's a free market system. That's what they want. So we keep blaming a man, but as we showed you in other podcasts, we have to look at the real cause. It's the system. And these people who sit in Congress pointing a finger at the Republican pointing a finger at the Democrat, but they are both apart. They are both denominations of the same religion of capital. They plunder on one side or the other, and we're going to investigate it. So we have 1.2 billion in Ohio. We have 90 billion and possibly up to 16 billion in Minnesota. And presently, the commander-in-chief, assistant vice president, he is on a campaign to investigate fraud throughout the nation. And a lot of states are coming up to show your books. Boston, New York, Chicago, California, Minnesota. They're all going to have to show the books. We don't really realize what's happening here. See, the distraction is to keep bringing up Trump. How in the hell you gonna run a campaign and your campaign is you gonna fight Trump? What's your policies? You keep saying you're going to lower the cost. You heard Kamala run on the same platform. I'm going to lower the cost of groceries. What you had, the price of groceries been going up way before Trump. But you don't have the power to do it anyway. It's in the hand of the corporations. And they're saddled upon the Senate and the House of Representatives. So they make these promises, and since because the people are politically backwards, they don't know. They don't, the politicians who run, many of them are our inferiors. They run on a platform. They don't have to show the people much because the people don't know much. All they got to do is say a few things. We don't know the right questions to ask. We don't realize that the promise they make, and they're not even capable of it because they don't have the power to do it, whether as president in this particular context. So we have plundering. The people who live in the country, who fought for the country, barely can make ends meet. But you have 1.2 billion being funneled out with other programs because it sure looks suspicious coming from the Democratic perspective or their sector, the Democratic sector, because look like you're trying to build a new voting base. You get all of the immigrants, illegals come in, you don't want to document them. You turn over funding to them where they can prosper, and they almost assure vote for you. We have to wake up and understand. Now, $1.2 billion in Ohio, $9 billion to $16 billion in fraud in Minnesota, $1.2 billion in fraud in Ohio. So let's look at this.
Mayor Johnston, coming back to you. How much did your city spend on illegal immigration? Do you have a round number?
Over the last couple of years on all newcomers, whatever their status was, it's around 79 million since 2022.
79 million.
Now this was 2024, between 2024 and 2025. So this is Representative asking about the numbers. Representative Daniels, I think it's Byron Daniels, in Florida. Listen carefully, because they could blame one man if they want, or a certain administration. We want to follow up with that too, because the media, they don't, for some reason, they don't really talk too much about history. That's why history is so important. So what's happening here? Listen carefully.
Mayor Johnston, coming back to you. How much did your city spend on illegal immigration? Do you have a round number?
Over the last couple of years on all newcomers, whatever their status was, it's around 79 million since 2022.
79 million. Mayor Johnson, Chicago. How much has the city of Chicago spent on illegal immigration?
If you're referring to the 2022 up to 2024 of the buses coming from Texas, roughly the same percentage of the state of Texas, about 1% of our overall budget.
What is that? Because we don't have the city's budget in front of me. Numbers.
It's 1%, and if you want the actual calculation, we can make sure someone.
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you.
It's 1% of the overall budget over the last 4 years,
why you're a failing
which
mayor.
is the
Mayor
same
Adams,
number that
how
was
much did
sent
the
from
city of
us.
New York?
Now, see, that's from my research, that's a lie. He said 1% of the budget. So in Chicago, okay, so the mayor of Chicago, he said, you have the Congressman Daniels asking him, how much did you spend, if you notice, on illegal immigration? And so in Chicago, he said they spent 1% of the budget That's what he argued in Chicago. Now, what's interesting about that argument in Chicago is that Chicago received a budget of, in 2025, I believe it was 2025, yes. Chicago received a budget of $16.6 billion. So 1% of that, if I have the math correct, will be 16.6 million. Okay? That is what those numbers would be. However, according to ABC 7 Chicago, the city of Chicago has spent between $574 million. Listen carefully now. We have Chicago, we have Minnesota with 9 to 16 billion in fraud, Ohio and $1.2 billion in fraud. And remember, this fraud, all of this money is going to the capitalists one way or the other. It's being laundered to the capitalist. Keep that in mind. And then the mayor of Chicago, he says it was 1%, but he didn't have the numbers in front of him. So you look up the budget in Chicago. So according to his argument, it was 16.6 million. This is what he told the congressman indirectly, because he said it was 1% of the overall budget. But according to ABC Chicago, Chicago spent between 574 million and 638 million directly on emergency contracts and care for new immigrant arrivals since the influx began in 2022. Now this number could be greater, all right, or it could be less. But we're looking at the millions. At least according to the mayor of Chicago, at least 16 million. But it's likely is with these figures, 5.7 million and 6.38 million. Excuse me, 574 million, I'm sorry, and 638 million directly. Who pay for this? So you look at Chicago. You look at the sufferers. You look at the workers. You have people who live in Chicago, can't afford their homes, being moved out of their homes. And this is how you cause the immigrants and the native people there to go to war, because you're going to bring the immigrants into the homes. You're going to pay for hotels. You're going to buy their cars. You have real crime taking place. Real plunder taking place. And no matter how hostile the Republicans may seem, and some of them may be very much sincere, but you have to remember, at least from the position in which we're arguing, none of this can be resolved in the capitalist framework. So if we go back a bit and listen to the numbers again.
Mayor Johnston, coming back to you, how much did your city spend on illegal immigration? Do you have a round number?
Over the last couple of years on all newcomers, whatever their status was, it's around 79 million since 2022.
79 million. Mayor Johnson, Chicago. How much has the city of Chicago spent on illegal immigration?
If you're referring to the 2022 up to 2024 of the buses coming from Texas, roughly the same percentage of the state of Texas, about 1% of our overall budget.
What is that? Because we don't have the city's budget in front of me. Numbers.
It's 1%, and if you want the actual calculation, we can make sure someone.
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you?
It's 1% of the overall budget over the last 4 years,
that's why you're a failing
which
mayor.
is the
Mayor
same
Adams,
number that
how
was
much did the
sent from
city of
us
New
from
York
the
actually
state
spend
of
on
Texas.
illegal immigration? Mayor Johnson, I already asked you. You don't.
All right, so now we're going to New York. New York gonna have his numbers. This is before Mondani, so this is Mayor Adams in New York City. He's gonna ask him his numbers in New York City. This is for illegals or those who are not citizens yet.
don't have a hard number. And if you don't have a hard number, you're not running your city well. Mayor Adams, how much did the city of New York actually spend on illegal immigration?
6.9 billion of taxpayers' dollars.
$6.9 billion.
That's staggering. Now, see, in New York, in New York State, they're also now investigating fraud. So whether it's Cleveland, Ohio, what they're describing in these other cities, you see it happening in the cities in New York State. And so maybe I can get the clip, but what happens, for example, and this is just what's happening, whether people, this is not about slander, but this is what happens with some. You have some who come over and they're Islamic in faith. They practice polygyny or polygamy. Well, America's monogamous. So what happens is you make a claim one wife and the rest of them technically by default become your baby mothers. So what happens? You put them on social services. So now you got 3, 4 wives. See, you may look in your neighborhood. We have to question. I don't know, but we have to question. Well, how is it that in the poor neighborhoods where the migrant is moving in, and this is not all now, but you have a percentage of them move in, they get stores, they buy up the houses, they buy up all of the property. What's happening here? Well, we know that they're running on the platform of the capitalist mode of production. We know that. So they're not really, many or some are not coming in here in solidarity to help liberate the workers of the world. They sort of have this attitude, we can't beat them, so let us join them. So they come, they open up stores, they buy up the property, they raise up rent, and run people out, move people out. So now people who could come in now, let's say you have migrants who come in, they've been here for a while, they own some property. They have other migrants who come in. These migrants have access to social services and Section 8 and SNAP. Well, now the government will pay the rent. So if they can't afford the $2,000 rent, then the government, which is our tax dollars, will pay the rent for them. Because they're offering these services to those who's coming in and they're not even necessarily citizens yet. You have several wives, they get on social services, and then on top of it, then they have laws being passed that you can take care of your own family members or open up daycares. And this is what they found in Minnesota. So now you have a bunch of kids by your baby mothers, and now you can open up a daycare and get paid for taking care of your own children. And it is rumored in New York they want to up the pay for each child to 20 grand. We're talking about a war and this plundering of the people that it can only happen because of the structure of the capitalist system. And those who sit in seats of power, many of them, if not all of them, have the capitalist mode of production at heart. That's their religion. It cannot be reformed. It will not be reformed. And we're going to discuss it. But right now we're looking at some of the fruits of it. $6.9 billion in New York. Chicago, probably greater. But according to the write-up of the research that I have found, $574 million to $638 million. This is illegals. We're not talking about the fraud yet. So we're yet to find out if there's fraud taking place in Chicago. We're yet to find out if there's fraud taking place in Illinois, wherever it is, in that state, or in New York State. Okay? So why? We have to get down to the bottom of this. Who do you blame? You just can't blame the president. You have to study the economic system and also understand how this form of government, the structure of the American government, have been sabotaged by mercantilists. Yes, it was mercantilists and capitalists who laid the foundations, but they gathered many of their ideas from a socialist construct, at least it's argued, a socialist construct, because they gathered, Benjamin Franklin and others studied the Iroquois Confederacy to build the structure for the American government. The problem is this: if you don't know how it works, it seems like it doesn't work. And so therefore, those who understand how it works wants the masses to be confused about it, throw up their hands, and feel it's nothing they can do, or they waiting to disappear one day with a rapture, or they waiting for spaceships to come out of the sky. They're okay with that. And they're really not threatened with violent revolution because they manufacture the bullets, they manufacture the planes and the drones. That's really not the deal. They want you to attempt that. Then it would justify more of a police state. So to understand the structure of the government is important so you won't blame one person. And then to really study and understand the structure of the government, you will realize that the seats of power are neutral. But in order for this experiment to work democratically, the way the framework is designed, every citizen must participate in the political process, which is argued over half the American people do not. Millions upon millions, hundreds of millions don't. So therefore, the capitalists, they keep moving into seats of power, putting the people who will work in their best interests into power, and we plunder back and forth, to the point where that we even believe we can't get out of the grasp or the grappling of this so-called Democrat and Republican denomination stronghold. Got to play the numbers again for you, because I don't know the city of the first mayor, but his was 79 million. And they want to talk about Trump, how much money he making. Okay, we're going to get to him, right? We're going to get to him. But don't go down that rabbit hole, people. You go to all of the senators and all of these people setting president offices, from Obama to the Bushes and vice presidents, Cheneys, and their capitalist endeavors that they gain great wealth off of because of their seats of power. Don't go down the rabbit hole. Don't let them just point at one person. We have to look and see what kind of system is putting it in place. And I will give Trump credit. He said, but if you don't like it, change it. Change it. You got the power. The question is, do you have the know-how to put your power in action? Those other discussions. But they're talking about so-called Trump this and Trump that. That's their whole campaign, some Democrats. Fighting Trump. What the hell you mean fighting Trump? Because he is the fall guy to make everything seem like the price is rising. No. Most High willing, we're going to show you. We're going to go back in history and show you. You see. No. That don't, as they say, don't drink the Kool-Aid. 79 million. Look at these numbers again. Listen to these numbers.
Mayor Johnston, coming back to you, how much did your city spend on illegal immigration? Do you have a round number?
Over the last couple of years, on all newcomers, whatever their status was, it's around 79 million since 2022.
79 million. Mayor Johnson, Chicago. How much has the city of Chicago spent on illegal immigration?
If you're referring to the 2022 up to 2024 of the buses coming from Texas, roughly the same percentage of the state of Texas, about 1% of our overall budget.
What is that? Because I don't have the city's budget in front of me. Numbers.
It's 1%, and if you want the actual calculation, we can make sure someone.
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you.
It's 1% of the overall budget over the
All right,
last
that's
4
why
years,
you're a failing
which
mayor.
is the
Mayor
same
Adams,
number that
how
was
much did
sent
the
from
city of
us
New
from
York
the
actually
state
spend
of
on
Texas.
illegal immigration? Mayor Johnson, I already asked you. You don't have a hard number, and if you don't have a hard number, you're not running your city well. Mayor Adams, how much did the city of New York actually spend on illegal immigration?
6.9 billion of taxpayers' dollars.
$6.9 billion of taxpayer money on a problem that was fostered on the American people. Mayor Wu, in the city of Boston, how much did you spend?
We don't ask about immigration status and delivering city
You don't
services,
ask
so
about
we
how
don't
much
have
money
that
the city
number.
of Boston has spent on illegal immigration.
We
Are you
don't
out of your
distinguish
mind?
between immigration status.
Do you
as
manage
part
your
of our
budget
city
or not,
policies.
Mayor Wu?
That is how we keep
Mayor
our city
Wu, do
safe.
you manage
we
your
have
budget
the
or not?
numbers to prove it. I manage my budget. I have a AAA bond rating dating back 10 years.
So to the city of
budget.
Boston, just understand that your mayor does not care how much of your resources she has spent on people who are not citizens
The city
of
of
the city
Boston
of
is
Boston.
sick of having
I'm
people
reclaiming my
outside
time.
Boston
Mr.
telling
Bear,
us what
Mr.
we
Bear, I
do.
have a question for you because I understand Cato's perspective.
She gonna have the nerve to talk about the city of Boston. I'm sick of talking about, or other people telling them, who you representing? Why don't you just give up the numbers? If you have a gripe with the Republican, okay, fine. They're doing this crookedness. But that don't mean you sweep yours under the rug and vice versa. Okay, but right now this is a platform about non-citizens receiving millions to billions of dollars in taxpayer funding on top of the tax burden of paying these elected officials, on top of the tax burden of those who have the power of the purse, which is Congress, and all in which they allow through price gouging, exploitation in the marketplace. None of them are off the hook. We have to look and see, bit by bit, what's happening and analyze how the foundational Americans are caught in capitalism and mercantilism, going back and forth on this seesaw. People say capitalism works. When? People say, well, communism killed a bunch of people. There has never been a communist country. I dare you to try me on it. I already know what you're going to say. China and Russia. No, you are absolutely wrong. Castro in Cuba. You are absolutely wrong. There's never been a communist country. You have those who have attempted the socialist experiment. Okay, you have that. And it didn't fail because the social system was corrupt. It had its complications because of being sabotaged. That's what they don't talk about. On top of the rumors and exacerbated lies they said about it. But when we're looking at capitalism, how many people died in World War I? How many people died in World War II? How many people died in the Revolutionary War? How many people died in the Mexican-American War? How many people died in the Civil War? How many people dying because of malnutrition? How many people dying because they can't afford their human rights, so therefore they go without and succumb to the elements? You reach into the billions. You see, we have to analyze this carefully. And she want to talk about what the people of Boston is tired of. Let me finish this clip.
Perspective when it comes to illegal immigration. I understand that the Cato Institute for a long time has had a standard of actually having open immigration into the United States. Generally speaking, I don't want to get into specifics.
We support legal immigration. We want immigration to be legal.
Let me ask you this question, because one of the great libertarians of the modern era, Milton Friedman, famously said, you can either have open borders or a welfare state, but you have to choose. Mr. Beer, what do you choose?
Milton Friedman said he wanted to allow illegal immigration to continue. I disagree with Milton Friedman's position on that. We should have legal immigration and build a wall around the welfare state, not around the country. That's in the best interest of taxpayers.
And I would argue that under the current system where you have sanctuary cities popping up, it is not possible to build that wall. So America has to choose, Mr. Beer, you're done. America has to choose between securing our nation or protecting the taxpayer. I choose secure the nation. I yield back.
Yes, indeed. So they brought up Milton Friedman. Apparently, he's probably their heroes and one of their champions, and he's one of the destabilizers of second and third world countries. But again, we're looking at the, at least according to what I've read. But what we're looking at is the going back, this back and forth, because both parties are are denominations of that religion that we had talked about in other podcasts. For those with the ears to hear, let them hear. Okay? So we're going to go back to our oversight committee of fraud and abuse. So we're looking at billions in fraud. We're looking at billions in the illegal immigrant situation, or those who are seeking asylum. But you have to remember, where do the money go to? So it may go to the illegal immigrant, but then they're spending it somewhere. So is it the capitalist immigrants who come here and set up businesses and get housing, and they fund the wealth through their poor migrant countrymen, so they can pay high rents? The pharmaceutical industries and the medical industry, the AKA capitalist pharmaceutical industries, the capitalist medical industries, the capitalist helping professions, billions of dollars is running to their coffers from this fraud. So you can look at the immigrant, you can look at the fraudster. See, they remind me of the drug dealer. Both kind. You got the drug dealer that's legal. He wear a lab coat. He dispense drugs all day, probably every day, or at least for 8 to 9 hours a day. Some are open all night. Drug house open all night. Whether they're the CVS's, you know, all of the pharmaceutical drug stores. And then you have those who sell it illegally. But the one who sell it illegally, he's bad, he's wrong, because of what it does to people. But the Democrats support the capitalist pharmaceutical industry and the capitalist medical industry, who does the same thing. They're the initiators. They're the genesis of it. Once their drugs finish, it hit the streets. A lot of people on drugs from going to war, veterans, because they was introduced to it as painkillers and everything else legally. It's a tangled web, and we have to investigate it. A tangled web. And this is exactly what the prophet Isaiah was making reference to, using these strong metaphors as he critiqued a corrupt society. He said they hatch viper's eggs and weave spider webs. And this analogy he was explaining, the viper's egg initially looks harmless. But if you eat it, it's full of venom. You will die. And if you step on it, a venomous viper breaks out and it bites you. We're going to look into it. These metaphors is describing systemic corruption. We're going to investigate that, okay? Systemic corruption. Now, we're going to pick this up because we got to go back and look at back to our discussion with the House Committee of Fraud and learn more about this Democrat and Republican seesaw of plundering the foundation Americans and our analysis of foundational America, or foundational Americans, excuse me, who find themselves caught and entangled in the capitalist and mercantilist web. I am Brother Judah from the Congregation of Israel, a representative of the NMP, the Nazarene Messianic Party. We're presenting these numbers because, again, we're showing you real time on what the Bible is making reference to. And in this real time, the Bible is arguing that the church, the ecclesia, the political body, the freedom fighters are to struggle against this corruption, and that they are to prevail. And in their success, they shall be the beacons and the light of all those who's seeking freedom and liberation and rest. All those who are seeking life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Don't let the capitalist fool you. When they broke away from feudal Europe and the Roman Catholic feudal empire to set up the capitalist, mercantilist empire, when they lied and told you church and state is separate. Politics and the Bible don't mix. It's a lie straight out of the depths of Hades. And we want to investigate and inform and organize. All right, we're not doing this for a round of applause. We're doing this for those who have an ear to hear and who want to be active and fulfilling what the church or the ecclesia or the government body or the body politic of the Abrahamic and Messianic kingdom is to fulfill. Being led and encouraged by the faith of Abraham, having hope beyond hope, and understanding that with the power of the architect of the universe, in whom the Hebrews call Yahweh, all things are possible. Structures that seems impregnable, immovable, crash into the sea. Say to this mountain, be moved. It looks like it can't. But the one who laid the foundations of the heaven and earth and bound the waters up, the mighty waters up in a fist, all things possible. Brother Judah closing out for today's session. Most High willing, we'll be back again with more discussions, sort of targeting for our next session, possibly in the Democratic Republican seesaw of plundering foundation Americans. Until the next time, peace and blessings to all of you who are sincerely searching, and all of you who have an ear, let them hear.